Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, we love to dig into thought-provoking stuff, and today we're diving into something really fascinating. The Science of Getting Rich.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It's a book from like 1910
Okay.
by this guy Wallace D. Wattles.
Okay.
And it's not what you think, like when you hear that title.
Right.
It's not about, winning the lottery or
Yeah.
quick schemes or
I
anything.
don't know.
Wattles presents this idea of getting rich as an actual science, like you could almost say like algebra,
Mm-hmm.
where there are these specific laws
Oh,
that lead to wealth.
okay.
So it's not just some like,
Wow.
1910s
Right.
American guy's ideas.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
That there's like a lineage to this kind of thinking.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so what does this ancient wisdom say? How do we get rich?
So that's the thing that I thought was so interesting is that Wattles argues that getting rich isn't about luck
Oh,
or being in the right place at the right time or any of those things that
right. All the usual suspects, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you work hard and you get lucky and,
Right.
Yeah.
He says it's about following these specific principles that are as concrete as any scientific formula.
And so talent doesn't even play a role.
That's what's so fascinating about it. I mean,
Okay.
he gives examples of people, from all walks of life,
Mm-hmm.
some with more talent than others, some with,
Yeah.
maybe more connections or whatever, who have all managed to achieve
Okay.
significant wealth by applying these principles.
So it's like a level playing field almost.
In a way, yeah.
Wow.
And then conversely, he points to those who seem to have every advantage.
Right.
Like they've inherited wealth or
Right.
they're born into the right family or whatever.
Privilege.
Yeah, right. And they end up stuck in this mindset of scarcity and actually lose it all.
Because they don't know how to harness it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They haven't learned the principles.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of these principles?
Mhm.
I mean, one of the first things that jumps out at me when I hear about the science of getting rich is this idea that everyone has the right to be rich,
Yeah.
not just like comfortable, but truly wealthy.
Yeah.
He even calls it our duty to become rich.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So that's what's so interesting about this book is that Wattles believes that living a full life, developing your talents,
Yeah.
and, experiencing all the beauty that the world has to offer
Mm-hmm.
requires resources. And those resources
Right.
require wealth.
Sure.
And he argues that it's not selfish
Sure.
to want to thrive
Mhm.
and to, contribute to the world in a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
He actually sees it almost as an obligation to reach your full potential. And that potential often requires having the means to do so.
Yeah, I can see how that might be controversial in a world where, wealth is seen as something that you hoard or,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
But he's saying it's not selfish.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's saying it's actually almost your duty to
Got
to reach your full potential and use that to
Yeah, to contribute.
contribute.
Okay, all right. So let's say you buy into this idea that, we have the right to be rich.
Okay.
But what about this fear that there's only so much to go around? Like
Mm.
the pie is already divided up.
Yeah, that's a common concern, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Wattles addresses that
Oh,
head on.
Okay.
He says, imagine there's enough material to build a mansion
Oh.
for every family on Earth
Right.
with resources left over.
Right.
He's basically saying there's enough for everyone
Okay.
and it's constantly being replenished.
Interesting.
So you're not shut out.
Um,
You just need to learn how to access it.
So it's more about changing our thinking
Yeah.
than changing the external circumstances.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay. So how do we tap into this abundance? How do we change our thinking?
So this is where things get really interesting because Wattles says that it all starts with the power of thought.
Okay.
He claims that everything is created
Wow.
from this formless substance.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like raw potential
Are there
from
a-
which everything is formed,
Yeah, I get that.
and that this
No.
potential is shaped by thought.
Okay.
So your thoughts directly influence your
Oh, wow.
financial reality.
So he's saying we can attract wealth through our thinking.
That's exactly what he's saying.
That's a pretty powerful idea.
Yeah, it is, and
Yeah.
it's a little mind-blowing.
Yeah, because we usually think of it the other way around, right? Like
Mhm.
we need to have the money in order to have the thoughts of abundance.
Right, exactly.
He's saying it's the opposite.
Yeah, he's flipping the script.
Okay.
Yeah, he's saying, our thoughts are like these blueprints. And the universe uses those blueprints to create our reality.
So we're like co-creators with the universe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he even takes it further and says that the universe actually wants to express itself more fully through us.
Oh, wow.
And that includes experiencing abundance.
So it's like this force that's
Yeah.
actually on our side,
Exactly.
wanting us to succeed.
Yeah, like it wants to see us,
It's
thrive and express our full potential.
So it's not about like manipulating the universe or trying to
Right.
trick it.
Not at all.
It's more about aligning ourselves
Yeah.
with this force
Exactly.
that already wants to give us these things.
Right.
Okay, so we need to change our thinking, but where do we start? Like, what's the first step?
So Wattles says that a lot of people get tripped up because they might have a vague desire for wealth,
Okay.
but they haven't actually formed a clear mental picture of what they want.
All right, it's like, I want to be rich, but they haven't really thought about what that actually looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So instead of just wishing for a bigger bank account,
Right.
you need to really visualize yourself
Yeah.
living in your dream home,
Okay.
traveling the world,
Mm-hmm.
pursuing your passions.
Yeah, like paint that picture in detail.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and really believe that what you desire is already on its way to you and
Yeah.
act accordingly.
Okay, so it's not just about visualization.
Right.
It's also about aligning our actions
Yeah.
with those visualizations.
Exactly. So before the break, we were talking about aligning our actions with those visualizations.
Right.
And that's where I think we need to dig into this idea of right action a little bit more,
Yeah,
because it seems like that's a key part of Wattles' philosophy.
absolutely.
But it's also where things could get a little tricky.
Yeah, how do you balance this idea of creating wealth with being ethical
Right.
and like contributing to the world? It seems like sometimes those things are at odds.
Yeah, and Wattles doesn't shy away from that.
Okay.
He actually explains that right action isn't about forcing things to happen
Okay.
or manipulating others.
So it's not about like taking shortcuts or exploiting loopholes or anything like that.
It seems like a lot of those get-rich-quick schemes are based on that kind of thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Wattles actually cautions against that kind of mindset.
Okay.
He even sees competition as a form of limitation. He says, competing implies that there's only so much to go around,
Right.
which goes against his whole idea of infinite abundance.
Right. It contradicts his whole premise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not about winning at all costs.
Right.
It's more about operating from this place of integrity
Okay.
and creating win-win situations.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense because I can see how that kind of shift in perspective could lead to a very different way of doing business.
Absolutely.
Instead of trying to grab a bigger piece of a limited pie.
We're focused on creating value and adding to the world.
Exactly.
So it's a more creative approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about maximizing profit. It's about maximizing value for everyone involved.
He gives an example of a business owner who makes sure their employees are fairly compensated
Okay.
and that they have opportunities to grow.
Okay.
So it's about creating that win-win situation.
Yeah, it's a more holistic approach.
Right.
Okay, so that makes sense conceptually.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking about like the practical side of things.
Sure.
It's all well and good to talk about creating value and aligning your actions with your thoughts.
Right.
But how do you actually put that into practice?
That's where his idea of effective action comes in.
Okay.
He makes a distinction between being efficient
Okay.
and being effective.
Okay.
So you could be super busy all day,
Right.
but if your actions aren't moving you toward your goals,
Yeah.
then they're not actually effective.
It's like working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he says that every action you take should be infused with intention.
Okay.
So you're holding that mental image of what you want to create in your mind.
So it's not just going through the motions.
Right.
It's about bringing your full attention and intention to every task.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he also stresses that we shouldn't wait for perfect conditions
Okay.
or try to force things to happen.
It's about taking the next logical step
Right.
and trusting that the universe will open up those opportunities as we move forward.
Exactly.
I can see how that would be difficult for some people
Oh, yeah.
because there's this pressure to, have this detailed plan and to try to control every aspect of the process.
Right. We want to feel in control.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's saying sometimes the best approach is to just surrender to the process and let things unfold.
Yeah, he compares it to the process of growth in nature.
Okay.
A seed doesn't try to force its way out of the ground.
Right.
It just follows its natural course,
Okay.
trusting in its inherent power to unfold.
I love that analogy
Yeah.
because it reminds us that, we also have this inherent potential within us,
Mm.
and that sometimes the best approach is to just trust and allow things to happen.
But it does take a lot of faith to operate from that place,
Right.
especially when you're dealing with something as tangible as money. And
Yeah.
Wattles acknowledges that.
Okay.
He says you have to hold fast to your vision.
Yeah.
Trust in the process.
Even when things aren't going your way.
Yeah, even when external circumstances seem to contradict it.
So it's not just about wishful thinking.
Right.
It's about having a deep conviction that what you want is on its way to you
Exactly.
and acting as if it's already a reality.
It's about bridging that gap between the mental realm,
Okay.
where your vision exists,
Yeah.
and the physical realm where it's going to ultimately manifest.
And that bridge is built with action.
Exactly.
Right.
It sounds like he's saying that doubt and fear are the biggest obstacles to wealth.
Yeah, because they block the flow and prevent you from taking those necessary actions.
He talks about cultivating a mindset of unshakable faith, replacing doubt with certainty and fear with this confident expectation of success.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Well, he talks about avoiding distractions and negative influences
Okay.
because he says, what you focus your attention on expands.
Right, so it's not about pretending that problems don't exist.
Right.
It's about choosing to focus on the positive.
Exactly.
So it's like being mindful of the information that you're consuming,
Yeah.
the people that you're spending time with.
The news that you're reading.
Yeah, it reminds me of that thing about how our brains are wired to pay more attention to negative information.
Right. It's a survival mechanism,
Yeah.
but it can also work against us
Exactly.
when we're trying to create something new.
So it's about retraining our brains
Yeah.
to focus on the good,
To focus on the possibilities.
on the abundance that already exists.
Right.
And that's a really powerful shift
I was
because it allows you to see opportunities where other people see obstacles,
It helps you stay motivated and focused.
even when things are tough.
Exactly.
So we've talked about a lot in this part,
Sick.
this idea of right action, this
Mhm.
distinction between being efficient and being effective, this power of belief, and the need to guard our minds against negativity.
And trusting the process.
Trusting the process, yeah.
Letting things unfold naturally.
It's a lot to digest.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm already starting to see how these principles could be applied to so many areas of life,
Absolutely.
not just to finances.
It's really a philosophy for living.
Yeah.
More than just a way to make money.
So I'm really looking forward to exploring this further.
Yeah.
What else does Wattles have to say about putting these ideas into practice? I'm really eager to get into the practical application of these principles. What specific actions does Wattles recommend for us to start putting this into practice and really seeing results?
Wattles is very clear that action is essential. You can't just think the right thoughts or visualize and expect results.
Right, it's got to be more than just wishful thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to take action in the physical world to bring those visions to life.
That makes sense. It's kind of like faith without works is dead right. You have to put in the effort.
He's not talking about just any action, though.
Okay, so it's not just like running around doing a million things.
No, it's about focused action. He uses this phrase, impressing your vision upon the formless substance.
The formless substance, what's that all about?
It sounds kind of abstract, right? But think of it this way. You have this clear vision of what you want to create.
Okay, got it. Like my vision board.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that vision exists in your mind in the realm of thought.
Right, but how does that translate into real-world results?
Wattles would say that the formless substance is the raw material of the universe, the potential from which everything is created.
Oh, okay, so it's like the cosmic clay that we mold with our thoughts and actions.
Precisely. And we mold that clay through action, but not just any action.
Right, it has to be aligned with our vision.
Exactly. Actions infused with the belief that you already possess what you desire.
So it's not about forcing things to happen, it's about aligning ourselves with the flow of the universe.
Like a sailor who constantly adjusts his course, guided by the compass and his vision of the destination.
Oh, I like that analogy. So we need to constantly evaluate if our actions are moving us towards our goals.
Exactly. And be willing to adjust course if necessary. Don't be afraid to experiment and try new things.
But also don't get caught up in overthinking or waiting for the perfect moment.
Action often requires us to take that leap of faith, even when things feel uncertain.
Trusting that the universe will support us.
Exactly. And this ties into another important point, finding work that you genuinely enjoy.
That you're passionate about.
Wattles emphasizes the importance of aligning your work with your unique talents and abilities.
Oh, I love that. Because I've had jobs where I felt like I was just going through the motions, just trying to get through the day, and it was draining.
It's like you're not fully expressing yourself. Wattles believes that when you're engaged in work that lights you up, you become more effective and productive.
That makes sense. When you're energized by what you're doing, you naturally put more energy into it.
And that leads to greater success and abundance. It's not about forcing yourself into a career path that you think will make you rich.
Even if you hate it, right, it's about finding that sweet spot where your passion and skills align.
Absolutely, because that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
That's where you tap into your true potential.
And this challenges the idea that we have to sacrifice our happiness and well-being to achieve financial success.
Wattles would argue that true wealth encompasses all areas of life.
It's about living a rich and meaningful life in every sense of the word.
It's a holistic vision of abundance.
And that brings us to the importance of generosity and gratitude. Wattles sees these as key ingredients for attracting more abundance into our lives.
Giving freely, expressing appreciation for what you have. It's like creating a positive feedback loop.
So it's not just about receiving, it's about giving back and acknowledging the abundance that already exists.
It's about shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Because when you believe there's enough to go around, you open yourself up to receiving more.
Exactly. It's a fundamental shift in perception. Wattles reminds us that the universe is inherently abundant and wants to express itself through us.
So it's not just about changing our actions, it's about changing our beliefs about ourselves and the world.
It's about trusting that the universe is on our side, that it wants us to succeed and thrive.
That's a really powerful message of hope and empowerment.
The science of getting rich offers a timeless wisdom that's just as relevant today as it was over a century ago.
It's not just about accumulating wealth, but about becoming more conscious, more aligned with our true purpose, and living a more fulfilling life.
It's about tapping into the infinite potential that exists within each of us.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I encourage all of you listening to explore the science of getting rich for yourselves.
See how its principles can transform your life and your perspective on abundance.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the science of getting rich. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge and keep diving deep.